welcome back. This is Sharon Cullen Art, and this will be part 2 of the Doodle and Sketch box for January, or their holiday box. If you need to see the unboxing video and a description on how to get a box, then go back to part 1, which I will link at the end of the video and also in the description down below so that you can go ahead and see that. Now, a couple things I wanted to mention was that this drawing paper that I was showing you yesterday is 94 pounds. And I tell you what, you guys, this is nice heavy-duty paper. And they say it's great for color pencil as well as gouache. So I just wanted to mention that to you. And this is a Fabriano drawing pad, 200 GSM, 94 pound. Now this Fabriano paper, I opened it up and it is a block. It doesn't say block anywhere on here, which makes it really difficult. I think the color of the paper is what tells you, because their regular pads have a blue bottom area, I believe. This is 200 GSM 90 pound paper, but being a block, it should tolerate washes fairly well. This is cold press paper. Now I'm going ahead and using my footprint palette today for my paints. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this in. And while I do my drawing and painting, I'm going to put it on a slow fast forward, if that makes any sense. And I will do a voiceover description of what I am doing. If I do this regular full-on on their demonstration, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do that or not. So that's why I'm going to do it in a semi-fast forward state. So let me go ahead and get this drawn in. I'm just using my own Graph Gear 1000 pencil and 0.5 millimeter lead, and this is an HB, and instead of using the 2B pencil. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this in, but let me show you the photo that we'll be using here. It is this photo. So I will not be using any white gouache. I'll be using only the white of the paper. I'm going to go ahead and draw this in. I'm going to do a little bit of masking, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so I forgot to start my camera when I was doing the drawing. Basically, I just put a line here, brought this roof line down, and I'm all done with that portion. Put the chimney in, and careful to watch the roof line because this chimney ends below the top of the roof line. So, I'm going to continue to draw this on. I've got what appears to be a doorway up here, but I'm not sure if I'm going to use it as a doorway. I may just use it as a window and put that in there like that, because there's a balcony looking thing that goes across here this is the base of the balcony right here, going across, and then there's a railing right about here. I want to make sure I leave room for my snow. And snow here. And this can come down. Then there's going to be trees coming in too, and they're going to need white branches. So I'm going to draw my trees in here. My tree branches are going to come in like that. There's a bit of a window here. I might put a little bit of that in. Let's see here. Just put a little bit. I'm going to put the windows in over here. They start just below the balcony here. Oops, that's not straight. Then there's one across from it, a little bit over, underneath the doorway. This doorway's over too far. I need to bring it down. I need to bring it over this way a little bit. There we go. And this window starts here. This line goes across like that. I do that just to keep my lines level for each window so that they go across, or semi-level. They're not going to be perfect. And then below those, looks like there's a big board, and then that goes across here like this. And then the windows below it. Actually, yeah, that'll work. A little bit wider. There we go. Alrighty. So I think there's some branches that come in off the side. I'm gonna want this to be snowy. But there's branches that are gonna come in by this window like this. I think I'm all set with that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tape down my roof a little bit. This will be my bottom half of my roof here. Must have had that along my shirt. I've got little fuzzies, but that's all right. This is good enough. It's only for a minute that I'm going to be masking that. So now I'm going to go ahead and start my painting by getting this whole area wet. I'm going to do a little bit of wet into wet. Oh, actually, before I do that, I need to put there's like a hill that comes out, and then it comes way down like this. So I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm just going to wet this whole area, and I'm going to put in my branches. And whatever white remains will be the snow, but it looks very gray because of the background. There's a lot of skinny little trees and a couple fat ones. So I'll just go ahead with that. Wet this all down. Just let it sink into the paper a little bit. You want to do this while it's still got a sheen to it. Being careful with this paper because it is 90 pound, although it is in a block, so that will help me in the long run. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and mix some gray up. I'm going to use this brown, which looks like burnt sienna to me, and a little bit of blue. Making it a little gray. That's pretty gray. I also want to use some of my yellow ochre. Actually, mix all of these colors up right now. And then I'm going to mix some of I want to take some of my yellow ochre, and I want to brown that down a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little. Okay, after wetting this all down, you can see that I've mixed those puddles of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and then also the burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and a little bit of that gray in there. And I'm just adding trees to the background. I'm putting them on very thinly with my number 8 wash brush that I have, and a couple of the areas got some wide dots on them that I'm going to try to remove, but really it doesn't matter. This is all going to kind of meld together in the distance, and then I'll be putting the foreground trees on later. See, here's where I try to wipe it off, and it really doesn't work, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. Then I'm going over to the left-hand side near the house and also where the hill tends to drop on the left-hand side. And I'm putting some gray shadowing in there. I feel like I got it a little bit dark, but once it dries, it does lighten up, so it's not such a big deal. Later on, there will be grasses and trees that will be going over this, just so that you can make sense of what I'm doing there. Now, I adjusted my camera so that you're a little bit closer to the picture here that I'm painting, but you've lost my palette on the left-hand side a bit. What I did was I mixed some burnt sienna with a little bit of my vermilion red and a little pinch of ultramarine blue to get a darker brown. And I'll be going over this a couple of times, so it will deepen a little bit more. Just painting the house. And right here, I'm leaving in those white areas that I had drawn in with my pencil. That's where the snow will be sitting on the branches. And I'll be doing the same to the other side, continuing on a little bit and drawing a little bit of the brown back that would be showing through the tree on the left-hand side of the house. There is a balcony that goes across there, and I'm just trying to darken that area in, and I left a little white line where the snow would be sitting on the railing that goes across the top of the balcony. Now I'm removing the tape, and I'll go ahead and begin painting the chimney. And then there's this strange railing or something that comes down the side. At first I thought it was a shadow, but down along the edge of the chimney there and down to the base of the roof is this strange brown object. So I just painted it in. And I'll begin with the foreground trees now, going in with some of the gray that I mixed earlier, the same burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. And then I'm also going to add a little more burnt sienna to it and make some brown trees as well. Now I'm just mixing up some greens. I'm using a little bit of my sap green, but I'm adding ultramarine blue and burnt sienna into it to darken it. It's a little bit greener here, and the pine trees will kind of change color as I paint more of them. I'm dry brushing, which basically just means that once I've got the pigment on my brush, I'm removing some of that pigment with a paper towel by just setting the back end of the bristles toward the ferrule onto my brush to decrease the amount of pigment load that I have. And that allows me to get some more white on the branches there. You see here also the way I've sloped the bottoms of the trees being much higher up on the left-hand side of a tree than on the right-hand side. It allows for that slope on the hill. And that's how you get the deep decline or drop off on that hill. Here what you're seeing me do is just a little bit of scrubbing. I'm putting a little bit of pigment on my brush and then scrubbing over those trees because some of the pine branches had come and hit the edge of those tree trunks. So it looks like they're in front of them rather than behind the trees. So I had to remove those. And now here I'm going ahead in and putting the tree in that's close to the house on the right hand side there, and I'm going underneath the white area so that it appears like there's snow resting on those green branches. Here I'm just adding a couple of very small pine trees lower down the hill. I'm sorry that I was off frame in this shot. And now on the left hand side I'm going in with some of my brown mixture, and I've mixed up a little more vermilion in it to give it a little more of a purplish brown hue, and I am adding little trees and twigs. It probably is some sort of like a berry vine like that you would see in the summertime, because they all go perfectly down the hill in a row. So that's possible that's what those are. Whatever they are, they're young branches. And then also I'm going back in with a little more of a yellow ochre mixture to add some grasses in there, and I'm putting some in on the back slope too. The artist who did this did not do any of that, but I thought it looked more natural to have some in by the trees and on that back grade area. And I'm also darkening the shadow on that side of the chimney there. I'm mixing up a little more of that color to add some more branches in, and then I'm also just flicking in some paint just to give it a little more, I don't know, something else. It just needed something more. And then going in again with that same color, which is a deep brown. It is fine to use on the window panes. It's really not noticeable against the brown house that the color might be slightly different. Now I'm just going in with a little bit of a purplish gray color on the glass and touching up a little bit more with some brown in between those branches here and there so that the house doesn't look like it just cuts off there in white, and adding some drip marks to the roof line, although it got a little wiggly and I didn't like how it turned out, so I going in with my rigger. Now also I wanted you to know that the artist did grab a brush out of her own supplies to finish up here. There wasn't a narrow enough brush for either of us to put small branches on these trees, which is what we both did. So I just used my rigger in this case, or liner or script brush, whatever you want to call it. And this was a size 1 silver, I believe it's a silver white. One thing to note when putting branches on like this, I don't just put them on the left and the right hand side. I go up the center too, and I kind of swing it out to the left or the right so that it looks like a branch is foreshortened and coming up the front of the tree. I also will draw some on that look like they come off the back of the tree. And also I decided to add some ultramarine blue to add shadowing on the house and in front and on the roof line. The artist did not do that in the demonstration. Okay, so here is the finished painting, you guys, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I've got some other good stuff coming up, and I'll be doing a Shark Bites vlog very soon to update you on some things. All the information is in the description box below, and you can find Doodle and Sketch at doodleandsketch.com. If it comes up in Russian, there's a little EN for English in the upper right-hand corner of their website so that you can check out their boxes. You'll only be able to see their current boxes that you can order between the 10th and 20th of each month. Otherwise, you can order past boxes that they have available. So, just so you're aware of that. And their prices are very reasonable. A lot of people say it's expensive. I understand it is expensive because you are receiving so many supplies, but actually their prices are very good considering that you get all these videos to go along with it. So all that video instruction is really nice to have. That's pretty much it. So everybody remember, be courageous, paint with wild abandon, and most of all, be kind to each other. Take care.